This first-time investor bought a duplex that looked perfect on paper and lost $52,000 in his first year. How? How is it that real estate investors buy deals and lose thousands of dollars? None of them made bad bets on the market, and none of them bought in bad neighborhoods. But they ran all into the same four mistakes without even knowing until it was too late. So, as an investor focused loan advisor, I see it over and over again where these investors are making these mistakes, and I have an opportunity to share it with you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna walk you through real scenarios so you can see how each one plays out, and I'm gonna give you the specific things to look out for before you even make an offer. And I'll show you what the investors who are winning are doing differently at each step. And I want to also preface that making mistakes, I would argue, is a good thing because that's how you and I learn. So don't be afraid to make mistakes, but if I can save you some money, at least so the mistakes don't hurt as bad, then that's my goal with this video. So red flag number one is you're buying someone else's problems. And it's important to recognize if you are buying someone else's headache and that they want to unload, and the reason for selling is important to distinguish. So it's good to talk to agents and see like, why is the person selling? But let me share you a story of an example of this. So an investor buys a duplex for 280 grand. Okay. He gets 1,800 a month per unit, solid neighborhood. 6 months in, the roof needs to be replaced because of an improper layering. So sometimes contractors will put membrane layer over an old one to save money and not have to like actually replace it. And so the HVAC then goes after the roof goes, and then a plumber finds corrosion in the galvanized pipes throughout. So we had like 3 issues happen all within the span of like 12 months. And the guy had to spend $52,000 in year 1. So deferred maintenance is the number one deal killer. And sometimes sellers know, but not always. So you always need to do your due diligence. Sometimes you can't see behind the wall. So I get that. But I have investors that like, if they know that there's galvanized pipes on some of their multi-units, they won't even buy them. Like it has to be PVC. So some investors have buy boxes that they create for themselves to protect themselves from these issues, right? So what I always tell people is ignore what the listing agent says, do your own research. Obviously, you won't always know every possible thing about a property, but the better the inspection and the buy box, the better position you'll be in, right? So things we look out for and things that I think investors should look out for is the roof, right? Old plumbing, electrical problems, HVAC, right? Foundation issues. These are the common issues that come up, especially on appraisals if they are issues with the appraisers. And all these items are important to fix, but what's really important to note is that they don't add value to your property, right? And that's where you can spend a lot of money and have stagnant rents and values. So that's why we want to be careful, because there are value add projects you can do, but then there are other projects that you have to do that are important, right? Fixing the plumbing, fixing the roof, right? If it's got just this dumb membrane layer, whatever the issue might be. The thing is, if you are not able to invest in the value adds and you're just spending money on repairs, it may not be a good deal. Red flag number 2, bank approval doesn't mean it's a good deal. Now, I'm a lender. So coming from a lender that we're incentivized to get the deal closed, help you get the loan and get qualified. So I'm actually coming from an honest place of, listen, just because the deal might work, it doesn't mean it's good for you, right? Because I've approved loans on properties that I would never buy myself. And the bank cares if you can make the payment. That's what they want, right? Not if the deal is actually good. So for example, a first-time investor gets approved for a $350,000 single family, right? The monthly payment is $2,450. Market rent is $2,100. Okay, so market rent's a little bit below the actual mortgage payment. So the bank approved it. Approved is not the same as profitable, and so make sure you have a long-term plan with the property, because if it's not cash flowing on day one, it also doesn't mean it's a bad deal. So I'm not saying that just because you're not cash flowing, it's not a good deal, right? And I'm also saying that if it is cash flowing, it is a good deal. There's a lot more factors that come into play here. There were some strategies that we were able to implement to close the gap to get the loan to qualify, even though the rental income was short. But he still thought it was a good deal because he saw a lot of value add potential on this property. That's why he still wanted it, despite the mortgage being higher than the rent. So what smart investors do is a basic framework that like we've developed is just research, offer, income, right? So research the property, offer, you got to win at the purchase price. You want to make sure it's a good deal, of course, and then income, right? What's the potential income from the property? So I have it laid out here. So you want to target markets when you're researching where rents are growing. You have labor statistics, job growth. If you want to get that like deep into it, census population data, CoStar, Rentometer we've used even to look at local rents, but I like using appraisers for that as well. If I can't use a real estate agent, then I'll just do the research myself. But rental comps really help. You want to study that market and see, like, there's some things that you can't see outside of statistics, data, and charts, okay? There are a sort of magic and a science and an art that comes into looking at, hey, is this a good deal? It's not just about like cap rates and NOI income, although of course that plays a role. You get where I'm going with this, right? I think that's where just experience comes. You can look at the deal and say, okay, like I have a good sense about this. The next thing is offer, right? So profit is typically made on the purchase, not at the sale. So you want to run your DSCR, right? Run your numbers before you make an offer. If rent divided by PITI is below 1.0, then proceed with caution. I give an example here where you want to make sure that at least the rent covers the mortgage if you're trying to get a DSCR loan, right? And if it doesn't, we have some plan B options as well. Evaluate all income streams, not just base rent. Is there value add potential? Is there rent growth? Is there short-term rental upside if you want to use it as an Airbnb? Appreciation, tax depreciation. Also, by the way, guys, if you need any help with this, we help a lot of investors buy real estate to offset the taxes, especially high income earners. So it's really effective strategy if you're looking into doing that. By the way, if you have any questions on anything, just reach out. I'll put the link in the description. You can email me or book a call. The next red flag I think that a lot of people are missing right now that just they jump the gun too soon is that they don't have enough liquidity. So a lot of beginners think, hey, can I afford to buy this? But really a professional thinks, can I cover vacancies? So an investor closes on a single family rental, for example. He had to give reserve money away. And after signing a lease, long story, but he had to basically give the money that he had away. After signing a lease, the tenant left 5 months later because it was kind of a rough neighborhood, literally without warning. It took him 2 months to find a new tenant because he didn't have a good screening process. And it was a nightmare for him. He didn't have a lot of reserves. So those 2 months were stressful because he had an extra mortgage to cover, whereas the tenant would have covered that mortgage. So of course, being proactive with having that money saved allows you to play offense and of course have a good screening process, right? So what I typically tell people is I like to have 6 months reserves for every rental property that I own, right? So 6 months of the mortgage payment, right? We want to be careful, of course, looking at evictions in the area. If you're not familiar in the area, study how evictions work. I think it's really good for you to know. CapEx reserves, right? Roof, HVAC, appliances. You want to budget a percentage of monthly rental income into reserves if you can. So be ready for those unexpected repairs. The fourth and final red flag that a lot of guys are making right now, and I keep saying this over and over again in my content, playing offense before playing defense. Everybody gets excited, right? Offense wins games, but defense wins championships. Shout out to Paul Bryant, right? Rest in peace, famous Alabama college coach. We see a lot of investors that rush too quickly to buy real estate and invest in real estate because they see all these gurus and guys talking about how great it is. And it is a great business, but it can make you go broke really fast. Like real estate investing is not like just buying some stock, right? Or investing in some index funds. Like it's a lot of active work. Okay, unless you're passively investing in real estate funds and syndications. But a client came to me, for example, who was approved by another lender to purchase a rental, but he wanted a second opinion. So we talked. I ran the numbers with him and convinced him actually not to purchase because if anything goes wrong, he'd be screwed. He had a ton of credit card debt and he had barely enough savings and he was in a really fragile position. So I told him, yes, technically you're approved, barely by the way, but if you close and you find a deal, you're not going to be in a good financial position. And so surprisingly, he took my advice. He saved some money. We ended up working together because he liked that I wasn't just trying to rush him and get him into a deal. We wanted to actually do it the smart and the right way. And he saved. It took him about 8 months. And then he bought his first rental. And he was happy that he did because he actually had a lot of job issues with the current job that he had. Now he had to find a new job because he got let go. So there's just all those factors into play. If you're not stable, you should not be buying a rental property, right? Where another tenant is going to live in there. Because if something happens, you are in a fragile state where you can be in a poor financial position, right? So don't play offense too early. You want to have an emergency fund, 6 months reserves, in my opinion, consumer debt eliminated, right? Down payment ready. If you don't, you can use a HELOC on a rental property to cover that down payment. You want to make sure your personal DTI is healthy, right? So remember, to recap, guys, at the end of the day, after funding so many deals, these are the 4 red flags that I mainly see. Now, of course, there's other ones. There's other nuances, but these are just the main 4. You're buying someone else's problems. The bank approval doesn't mean it's a good deal. You don't have enough liquidity, and you play offense before playing defense. Guys, if you cover these 4 boxes, I think you'd be in a really good position to invest in real estate. So if you're looking at any deals, guys, you want help, you want a lender that's in your corner, book a free strategy call. We're going to review the deal together. We'll help you. We'll help you scale your portfolio, get the funding you need to buy the next property. Thank you guys for watching. Hope it helped.